Welcome to The Right Chamber, the podcast that takes you inside the NHS to explore what really makes a hospital a hospital.
Each episode, we sit down with the people who keep healthcare moving, from doctors, nurses on the front line, to students, the support teams, administrators, corporate staff, and everyone in between. These are the voices that often go unheard, but together they form the heartbeat of our hospitals.
Our aim is simple: to share authentic stories that are accessible to the public, meaningful to NHS staff, and a reminder that healthcare is more than treatments and wards. It's a whole community working together.
So whether you're part of the NHS family or simply curious about the people behind the service, join us as we open the doors to the conversations that matter here in the Right Chamber.
Dr. Andrea Gate has been a consultant anaesthetist at Dudley since 2008. Over the past 4 years, she has played an active role in advancing sexual safety at work within the Trust, contributing to the Sexual Safety Charter steering group and supporting wider initiatives to improve workplace culture and safety. Dr. Maya Patel is an anaesthetics trainee working in the West Midlands. Since 2021, she has been actively involved in work addressing sexism in the NHS and is a member of the Sexual Safety Steering Group at Russell's Hall. She is committed to challenging unacceptable behaviour from staff and patients and is creating workplaces where people feel safe, respected and supported. Welcome back to The Right Chamber. This is episode 2 of 3 in our series exploring sexual safety in the workplace. Today we're taking a closer look at the findings from a recent staff survey.
In this episode, we move beyond the headlines and dig into detail, exploring key outcomes, emerging patterns, and responses that prompted real reflection.
We'll be talking about attitudes, experiences, and the realities of working life today, including what surprised us, what confirmed existing concerns, and what insights this might bring for the organisations and leaders.
Before we continue, we'd like to include a trigger warning. This episode discusses topics related to sexual harassment and inappropriate behaviour in workplace, which some listeners may find distressing. Please take care while listening and feel free to skip this episode or take a break if you need to.
So if you're interested in understanding the story behind the data, join us as we unpack this episode.
Could you just reintroduce ourselves for anyone listening to this episode for the first time?
Sure. I'm Dr. Andrea Gate. I'm one of the consultant anaesthetists here at the Dudley Group. And this is some work that I've been involved in the last 3 or 4 years now, really because I feel that sexual safety at work is so important, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I've somehow managed to get involved in all sorts of things at work.
I'm Maya. I'm one of the ACCS CT4s in anaesthetics. I've also been getting involved in work like this for a couple of years now, and Dr. Gates has been kind enough to invite me to the sexual safety steering group, so I'm part of that charter too.
We should probably do a quick kind of recap for people who might not have listened to the first episode. So some of the things we talked about was starting to define what
Sexual harassment
is, because it can be a bit blurry. I think we got the lines we got to in that first episode, and I think it was helpful to just kind of nail it down a little bit to what constitutes sexual harassment, and we started to think about ways people can actually speak up and make a change in their local environments, in their teams at work, and also even in their personal spaces as well. Is there anything from the last episode that you just like to clarify for or just to remind people?
No, I mean, I think the main thing was the effect of the impact versus the intent of any comments, that actually the intent can be what the intent is, but the impact of any comments or statements or jokes is what's important, and that's what comes into the legal definition of sexual harassment. So I think that's a really important clarification.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it's not just what you've said, it's actually how has it impacted the people around you. And it's important that we remain aware. And I think you mentioned in the last episode as well to be sensitive and assess the impact of what you've said. And just being present in that moment and knowing, actually, am I out of line here? Should I apologize? And take those steps, and all those things contribute to this culture change that we're all hoping to see. And I think
Yeah.
we'll delve into the data today, and well, see where we are, I guess, and compare to where we are compared to national data as well. Does that kind of summary up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so plan for this episode is just to delve a little bit into some of the local data that we've collected, and also maybe touch upon some national data as well. Again, around this topic of sexual harassment, sexual safety. But before we get into results, I'm particularly interested in the um, local study or data that we've collected. What prompted you to, you know, um, create this survey and get data? What's the reasoning behind it? Just for
Was it like a single incident, or like you just started seeing this repetitive cases and thought, I need to do something about this?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So for me, sexual harassment at work is something I've experienced all my working life, particularly as a more junior doctor. And I've experienced sexual harassment and sexual assault, and in the past, it's always been one of those things that has nothing ever happens. And then I think it was the beginning of 2021, or at some point in 2021, I read there was an article in the Royal College of Surgeons, a bulletin. I think it was called "Sexual Assault in Surgery: A Painful Truth," and I read that, and that started triggering some online chat and some talk. And I thought, you know what, this doesn't have to be how it is. Things have to change. And so it's always been something that I've felt strongly about. But that it was reading that article that really made me think, yeah, I want to do something about this. And then from doing that, I just thought, to me, it seems perhaps different to how it was back 20 years ago when I was a junior doctor. But then that might be because I'm more senior and it's more covert now instead of overt. So I thought, and talking to some people at work, I just thought we need to know where we are. There was talk about the national survey going on, but I just thought it'd be really interesting to see where we are, because when you've got data, that can prompt you to do something about it. If you can take that to the trust board or to the execs or whatever and say, look, this is still happening, it gives you a lot more ammunition, a lot more support to actually make some change and make something happen. And it was in line with the whole national picture of things changing. So I started, and I mean, it's been a really interesting process just getting the survey out, which eventually came out in May 2024, for a month or 6 weeks, I think it was out. But finding all these groups in the hospital I didn't know existed, all these amazing people who work up, but behind the scenes in the Women's Network and in EDI and in the LGBTQ plus network, and all these people, and finding some support to get to start thinking about the survey, then thinking about the questions, and how we can make sure that the questions were. So our survey went through all of these groups and evolved all the time, and taking on things that I never thought about, but realised were really important. It's been a real eye-opening experience just getting the survey out there. through information governance, how you can cope, how you can comply with data protection, if somebody answers something and then wants it back, how to make it truly anonymous. That was one of the biggest challenges, because I wanted this to be truly anonymous unless somebody wanted to put their name to it, because I wanted people to feel that they could be honest.
Honest, yeah.
Because that's something that we discussed in our last episode, that people are scared to speak up.
Yeah.
Because they feel that they will be targeted.
Yeah.
And have consequences for speaking up.
But if it's that truly anonymized, then you can really see the mind of the people.
So we looked at things like, the online survey platforms, but we couldn't use those because information governance wasn't happy with where the data was going to be held. So then our IT team came up with a brilliant bespoke online survey that is not, you can log in from your phone. It's not one that you have to go through your trust thing, which people would immediately feel, and probably rightly so, that it's not truly anonymous. So yeah, in the end we came up with our bespoke survey and database that meant that we knew where the data was being held, that we knew where the data, that we could delete data if people wanted to do that, which was really good. But it took a long time.
Oh.
It was all really painful.
Wow.
It was really painful.
Well done for getting
Pushed on through. It was a labour of love, but we got there in the end.
I mean, just picking on to one thing you said, I find it really interesting that you, rather than just coming up with questions generically, you actually involved the different groups around the hospital and figured out what is important to you. And I think, as well as gathering information, probably learning a lot through the process as well. So I found that really interesting. Is there anything particular that you were hoping to find or clarify through the data?
We decided in the end to split into the survey into, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years, and then before 3 years ago. And I really wanted it to be better now than it was, which on the whole it was, because that's my feeling that society has changed so much since I was a teenager, since I was a junior doctor in the 90s, and I can only imagine what it was like, 20 years before that. So yeah, what I was hoping to find, it was better. I mean, obviously, ideally, it would be really nice if there'd been 0 episodes of any kind of sexual harassment or any issues within the last 2 or 3 years. Unsurprisingly, that wasn't the case. But yeah, that was what I was hoping, that it is getting better, which I think it is.
Did you see a pattern in the answers at all? Like, was there a significant pattern of how people were feeling or what they were reporting about?
I guess the harassment, the banter, the joking, that seems to be constant.
Oh.
That still is there, and I think people are getting more inclined to say, actually, that did make me feel uncomfortable, whether that's internally to them or, people still aren't reporting, because the main reason that people aren't reporting is they feel that nothing's going to change, that they're not going to be taken seriously, that nothing's going to happen. What's the point?
I think with junior doctors or just junior staff, I feel there's that feeling that when I report something, I'm going to be looked at as you're the troublemaker.
Yeah, I think there is a fear, and I think there's a layer of power imbalance in these kind of cases, and not knowing that your voice is going to be trusted necessarily if you report it. I think separate to that is the fear that nothing's going to be done, so why should I even bother? And that's seen throughout society, I guess, in the context away from work. Which is why I think all surveys like this, surveys that you've done, are so important, because no one's expecting anything to be done here. So I can actually just get to know how you feel and what's happening behind the scenes there.
Just letting those feelings out as well.
Finding out,
via,
yeah,
like,
and
the
this is what's
survey,
happened.
Are there any key things that has stood out to you from some of the findings in the survey?
We had nearly 257 respondents to our survey, which for a trust survey is a really big number. The team who send out regular surveys said they've never seen, they send out all sorts of surveys, and they said it was a really big response. And of that, 27% said that they'd experienced sexual harassment in the workplace, mostly verbal remarks of a sexual nature. 22% had experienced unwanted touching in the workplace.
Wow.
The main group of perpetrators was a senior colleague, but also then followed by patients. 22% of people had experienced some kind of sexual harassment or assault by patients. There were more male harassers than female, but 78.9% of the harassers were male and 17% were female. And the majority of staff didn't report it. So it was kind of what we were expecting, I guess. I was surprised by the by the number of people who'd experienced it by patients. But then when I stopped and thought about it, I wasn't surprised, because actually, as clinical staff, the doctors, the nurses, the allied health professionals, we're all actually very close to patients, and it's very hands-on. And so actually, when I stopped and thought about it, I thought, no, it's not a surprise.
I think it's more than that. I think it's more than being physically close to patients. I think there's an unwritten acceptance of this is what patients do. Patients will make jokes at you. Patients will belittle you, and it's because they're nervous or they're scared, and we can excuse it. But sometimes they're not nervous and scared, and sometimes they're not, like, they don't lack capacity. Sometimes this is what people are like, but we accept it as part of the job, and we don't do anything about it.
I think that's true.
Sometimes when they're like, oh, patient's confused. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
how it makes the person feel. Yes, the patient may be unwell, patient may be confused, they don't know what they're doing. But it's the person who's actually having this done to. It's
The
their
impact is
full
still there.
of
Yeah, it
feelings
doesn't
matter.
lessen the impact.
No, and there's things like that. There's always things that you can do if you report it in amongst your staff. Like maybe staff don't go working there with that patient on their own, or maybe if this person or patient is targeting a particular demographic of staff, maybe send in someone else, or just supervise and support whoever's working with them.
Yeah.
Because we take it very seriously when someone physically assaults you, like hits you or something. So they need to start taking this seriously as well. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
you need protection when you go see this person.
But I think what Maya said is right, actually. I think this whole societal expectation, you look back to the old Carry On films where the nurses were there as an object of, sexual attraction, or, and all the comments that used to go along with that. And that kind of hasn't really gone away.
Have you seen what Halloween, like,
Yeah.
That's
costumes
exactly what I
are?
was thinking. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, because things haven't progressed.
Yeah.
Well, not to progress.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
The demographic of patients as well will be a lot of our population's getting a population of patients more and more elderly. So I suppose maybe we didn't cover that, but amongst people who do harass or make comments like this, I wonder if there's a pattern in like the population of people. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to get.
Anecdotally and in my experience only, I think it is so much more widely accepted if patients are more elderly. Oh, that's just what they're like. They're just a product of their time. And fine, that's fine. I get that. I understand that. But we're still in 2025, and if I can't
But that's the same
do something now, when
answer
can I?
that we get when you get sexual harassment from your senior colleagues.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's just them.
Yeah.
This is who they are. They don't mean it.
They didn't mean it.
They don't mean it. It's just banter. But it's how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
To be looking at that rather than that's what he might be, that they have a different type of relationship with people that are happy with their banter. That's different. But that shouldn't be in a workplace, because if you're having banter with, like, say, I'm having banter with Victor, but Maya's feeling uncomfortable about it, that's still valid.
Yeah.
If people just saying, "Oh, that's just how he is," or things like that, it can actually shut a person down from feeling not very unvalidated in speaking up. Because if just a little thing like someone in confidence coming to you to share something like, "Oh, I was treated in this way," and, "Oh, that's just how he is," or then that person's probably very less likely to
It's so dismissive.
come out
It's so
against. So
sad.
dismissive.
So in your survey, was there a part where they could explain why they didn't report it?
Yes, we had lots of comments. So we had we had various options to try and be able to group the data a little bit, and the most almost exclusively people hadn't reported it because there was no point, nobody would believe me. And then there were some comments. So we had free text and we had boxes to tick that just to try and draw a bit more information out of people without them having to, write things themselves. But we also had quite a few comment boxes to allow people to do that if that's what they felt they needed to do. But yeah, that was almost exclusively, there's no point, nothing will change.
In all surveys that I've read so far about this topic out there, they all have the same underlying theme, is that they don't feel like, no one feels like anything's going to be done, or they won't be believed. And it's an inherent mistrust in the system, I think.
And the evidence is there that is true. I saw there was something in the news the other week about there was a female GP who'd made a couple of fake appointments so that she could pick her kids up. And she was suspended for 5 months from the GMC. And then you see that there's somebody who has been found guilty of assaulting a colleague who has been suspended for 3 months because we need them.
Yeah, I think I talked about this. Like it was like, oh, he's a brilliant surgeon or something.
Yeah.
So harassed his
there is no
juniors.
consistency, and the evidence really is that things don't happen to the perpetrators often. You can see it in life, really. And so that is a big problem that we have to sort out in society as well as in healthcare, in every walk of life, is how can we move on from this?
Absolutely. I guess that then begs the question of, okay, we now have some data, we have some information. We're assessing a bit better where we are, where we stand. Question then is, where do we go from here? How can we start to rebuild the trust? How can we start to change people's outlook, our confidence to speak out, for instance? Where do we go from these results?
Yeah. And then there's many national surveys have been done in the last few years. There's been and it's questions now in the staff survey, but there's medical students, isn't there? There was Breaking the Silence in 2023.
The BMA did a survey about medical students and sexism and sexual violence towards medical students, actually. And it might not be directly related to your question, but it's in relation to reporting in general and feeling like nothing's going to be done. And I think there's a general dissatisfaction as well in people who do report, feeling like their investigation hasn't been completed satisfactorily. And I don't know what that looks like necessarily. From the examples that the BMA have given, it's that you have a perpetrator who is harassing a person or a student at medical school, but they're still forced to go to the same seminars as them, still sit in lectures with them, still be on placement with them, and reporting it isn't fed through to different organisations. So you have got your university as one cohort and then your placements as something else, but that information isn't shared across it. So whether it's that's what we're looking for, is some kind of tangible impact that benefits the person who's being harassed and makes them feel safe again. I'm not looking for vindication. I'm not looking for vengeance. I'm not looking for revenge. I just want people to feel safe.
That's another thing, right? Say a student reports a consultant or a registrar or anyone for sexual harassment. Why should the student be removed from their cohort and moved, why is there no action taken against the person who's caused this? Like that's literally my question. Like, why?
And part of the problem is that if action is taken, it can't be fed back because of privacy, and that's what we're looking at, and perhaps we'll come to more in the next episode. But the fact that you can be doing things behind the scenes and you can be taking action against an individual, but you can't share that you've done that. And that makes it very difficult for people to trust the system.
It's lack of transparency, isn't it?
Yeah.
In all aspects, from the investigation sort of timelines and the outcomes. And if you don't know about it, you don't feel like things are being done.
Yeah. But if something has been done and that individual, you know, in circumstances where it was banter, the individual, there are people out there who genuinely don't realise the impact of what they have said or done. And if somebody is going to go away and reflect and change their behaviour, then perhaps you don't need to be sharing what's happened, and hopefully it would then be visible with that individual that they've changed their behaviour. But it's a really difficult balance to be able to show that something is going on behind the scenes, if indeed it is, but to maintain the privacy of the perpetrator as well.
Privacy of the perpetrator is still important in this case, but changes still need to be made.
Yeah.
And how will the victim kind of know that things are happening? They just have to see that
and
tangible
there is
change.
no answer. That's the
And I
problem.
think that's the hard part, like having to wait and see if something's going to be done about it.
I suppose that's where things like, having these regular training in departments and having the sexual safety team actually get involved with department, having it being a part of departmental teaching and training as well. All these things, if you see those changes, I think you'll start to notice a culture shift, even if it's just in a subtle way, but at least you see something tangible.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about last time. I think that if we can get in at ground level and start looking at the culture across the board of bullying, harassment, how does a department want to be? How do they think they are seen? How are they seen? And can we do anything about that? And to get reflection at within everyone by just addressing things as a whole department, then I think that is what is hopefully ultimately going to change it. It's never going to go away. We know that. But if we can address a culture of a department and it be a dynamic kind of two-way thing, then hopefully a lot of the low-level stuff will improve because people are just aware of it and thinking about it and reflecting on it.
Are there any final bits that you would like to point out in this episode before we just say a little bit about where people can go to for help?
I think I would like to point out significant bodies of work that have been done already, because we wouldn't be able to be having these conversations without them. So we've got the Breaking the Silence report, which is done by RFW. There's lots of S's and lots of P's.
It's the Working Party on Sexual Misconduct in Surgery.
Yeah, and that was in 2023, which I think made waves in sort of autumn 2023, made the news. We've talked about the BMA survey for medical students, and there's a Sexism in Medicine report by the BMA in 2021, and then Surviving in Scrubs, which is a website and sort of group set up by two junior doctors who've done remarkable work, frankly, by collating stories and putting sort of experiences together and driving a lot of change through both the BMA and the government.
Great. It's so good to see just this collaborative effort, just nationally. And
yeah, I mean, within the trust, just for the survey we did, the support I got from all groups, from so many people, was amazing. People were so determined to help me make this work. you know, and then the small group of us, myself and Paul Singh and Laura Cowley and Paige Massey, who really worked hard to get this survey off the ground. And yeah, I couldn't have done it without any of them. So it is, you know, there is the will out there to change things.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really positive thing.
Yeah.
And I think when people see this, if anyone is of the tendency of doing such things, they might think twice next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully. Well, even just thinking, how might my, you know, what I'm doing impact someone?
Yeah.
Just have a little, oh, okay, maybe that's not the way to go about things.
Hopefully, you know, with this help of the podcast, it can shed some more light and people can start to take note of that. You know, we are looking into these things. So yes, just as you said, think twice. You know, or just be more cautious of what your behavior is. You know, in the workplace. You know, it goes without saying, but apparently, you know, it does need
Apparently
saying.
it doesn't.
It might make both feel a little bit more safer about the reporting. That look, there are things being done. I'm not seeing it yet, but it will happen.
Yeah, I think the sharing the knowledge of what is going on behind the scenes, actually, I hope that by doing this and with the next episode where we're going to talk a lot more about what's going on behind the scenes, and hopefully not all behind the scenes, we want it to be visible, but we'll reassure people that change is happening and we do take it seriously.
Absolutely. Where can people just go to for help and support? Just briefly, you know, how can people speak up? Who can they approach?
So within healthcare and within the trust here at Dudley, we've got Freedom to Speak Up champions, we've got Freedom to Speak Up guardians. You could speak up through your line manager, through your educational supervisor. There's a wellbeing page, staff wellbeing page on the hub, which is accessible without being, you know, you can access it through your phone, and there's all sorts of information there on who you could contact. And then there's national support as well. But through the wellbeing page on the hub here in Dudley, there's a sexual safety section which has information as to who you could contact if you needed any help or support.
And we always tell our medical students to seek us, the clinical teaching fellows.
Yes, I mean, obviously, you know, we're here and happy to be contacted. But there is support within your department that you're working, but also outside of that if you don't feel comfortable doing that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again. It's always lovely to have you on the podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode. There we will go more into some practical steps that we can take to seek help, and also some of the works that are going on just to keep everyone aware of that. But I won't go too much away. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. If you would like to get involved with the podcast, please feel free to get in touch with any of the team of RGUC. And also do interact, share your thoughts as much as you're comfortable to. And, you know, comment and also share and spread the word as well. All right. Signing out. Thank you very much.
Remember to stay connected with us on social media. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at RGUCMS, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, RGUC Media, for more exclusive content and updates. Thanks for tuning in to the Right Chamber podcast. Until next time.